Well, we have a new study to bring to your attention. It's out of the UK, and it's finding that we actually have seen an increase in the frequency of clear air turbulence. That's when you sort of run into this bumpy patch during flights, but it looks like you have blue sky outside. It's associated with rising temperatures.
Yeah, it's a really interesting phenomenon. Here to speak more about it is the professor of atmospheric science at the University of Reading, Paul Williams. Paul, thanks so much for hanging out with us right here on Fox Weather First. First and foremost, for folks that might not be familiar, can you explain what clear air turbulence actually is and why it's significant to aircraft?
Good morning. Yeah, sure. So we're talking here about severe clear air turbulence. The severe part means that the up and down motions are actually stronger than gravity. So if you're not seatbelted, you will lift up out of your seat in severe turbulence. You'll become a projectile inside the cabin. And the clear air turbulence part simply means it's invisible. So the radar in the cockpit cannot see this kind of turbulence. It's literally invisible, and that's why it's especially hazardous to the aviation sector.
Wow, when you bring up the words projectile, I mean, I think about me and my family. I got 3 kids, and one of them is a lap child. Now we're kind of bridging into the point where that child will have their own seat. But you think about having a baby on your lap, you run into clear air turbulence where you think you're having a smooth flight. You really did highlight how scary this can get and how fast. So what's the correlation here weather-wise with the warming climate? How is that creating more clear air turbulence?
Well, we've had this prediction for the past 10 years that we have reason to believe that climate change is increasing the amount of severe clear air turbulence in the atmosphere. But what we haven't known until today is, have these changes already started to happen? It's a tricky question research-wise, precisely because it's invisible. So satellites don't help you out here. Satellites can't see this kind of turbulence, but there's a workaround. What satellites can see is the shape and structure of the jet stream. And so if we know that shape and structure, we can calculate how much clear air turbulence it would have been generating using the same kind of mathematics that we use to do turbulence forecasts every day for the aviation sector. And when we do these calculations and do this analysis, what we find in the study we've published this week is that the amount of severe clear air turbulence over the USA has increased by 41% since 1979, with similar increases around the world, 55% more over the North Atlantic, for example, and elsewhere.
You know, this is just a fascinating study, fascinating research as well that you're referring to here. And so what's the messaging to passengers moving forward?
Well, the thing I always do is I do what the pilots do. I keep my seatbelt fastened all the time when I'm seated. I know it's tempting to just unbuckle and relax a little bit, but literally this comes out of the blue. The pilots often have no idea. And when we do have forecasts, which are pretty good, but they're not perfect, and of course pilots on different aircraft will talk to each other and share information about where the turbulence is, but sometimes there is simply no warning. And the best thing you can do to keep yourself safe is to keep your seatbelt fastened. The worst thing that can happen then is that the turbulence will unlock one of the overhead luggage bins and a piece of luggage can fall out and injure you. And this has happened in the past, but it's very rare. Seatbelt fastened and you're virtually guaranteed to be safe.
Wow, well, a lot to think about, that's for sure, and you're kind of having me rethink the whole lap child process.
Yeah, exactly.
Professor of Atmospheric Sciences at the University of Reading in the UK, Paul Williams, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us here on Fox Weather.
Pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely.